Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to an all-new edition of Sunday Night War Week Radio. Guys, if it's Sunday, that means only one thing. It's time for Coach Gogue's Big Fight Analysis. Before we introduce our featured guest of the program, the 5-decade fight trainer, we do have to remind everyone that this show is brought to you by FightSaga.com. Guys, for all the latest boxing news, please go visit and bookmark FightSaga.com on the daily. But guys, this would not be a Sunday evening without the counsel of our very dear friend, 5-decade fight trainer, Mr. James Gogue. James, how the heck are you this evening, brother?
Oh, what a hell of a fight last night. Like I thought it would. I predicted that fight last night had the ingredients for an epic showdown. Both styles meshed beautifully. And I remember when they announced that fight, I'm like, man, this is a fight. Then it wasn't getting hot until it wasn't getting hot till the week of the fight, but I knew it was going to be a sizzler. You know what I mean? The best fighting the best. It lived up to the hype. Controversy as always. So a rematch is warranted.
Absolutely. And you know what's amazing? And I have to give this to PBC. Maybe it was just me missing the fight game and covering all these events live. This is my first fight that I've worked since January of 2020 live. But being around the atmosphere of Big Fight Week, PBC did an incredible job of creating that big fight atmosphere. They did a great job selling tickets. They never once announced the attendance or they gave ringside press row attendance, but it looked like a packed house. Good. It was a very healthy crowd in San Antonio.
And a lively crowd.
Exactly. And boy, they let the fighters know it. You had some jeers, you had some cheers, and you had some boos for the bad guy of the fight card, Rollie Romero. We'll get to that later on in the show. But Coach, it was a unification to determine undisputed at 154 pounds. And the undisputed contest, well, ended up being somewhat disputed. It was Jermell Charlo versus Brian Castano for all the marbles at 154 pounds, and it ended up being a split decision draw. Coach, before we get into the events before and after the fight, how did you score the fight very quickly?
Man, I'm telling you what, Joe, going down the stretch, I'm like, Charlo better knock this guy out. Man, let me tell you, he was losing the fight. Then, the back half of the fight, I mean, going down the stretch, I thought he won the rounds to make it a draw. Or Castano winning by 1 point, 7 rounds of 5. So, but
yeah, Coach, I'm in agreement with you. In my opinion, the way I saw the fight, best case scenario for Charlo was a draw. I saw the way I scored it, there was no way he could have won going into the final fight unless he scored a knockdown or a knockout. And after the fight, I thought the best case scenario for Charlo was a draw, but I thought there was no way he could have won it. So, and the way I scored it 114, 6 rounds apiece, just like Judge Tim Cheatham, right? We'll focus on the scorecards. We'll get back to that a little bit later on the show. Right now, I'd like to give a shout out to my brother, Antonio from where are you? Long Beach, California? Antonio from Long Beach. Thanks for joining us, brother. He says Charlo wins the rematch.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Antonio.
We'll also and you give a shout out to my brother who broke Facebook and the internet this weekend from his article on Terrence Crawford leaving Top Rank. Great job with that, brother, for Fight Saga. Shout out to my brother Corey Bradshaw, Mr. IOTBA. Thank you for joining us this evening, sir. Great job by PBC indeed.
The Metroplex.
Yep, and Corey says he also scored it a draw, Coach.
Okay. So we're all in agreement.
Well, yes, of course. And we're going to get to the judges' scorecards a little bit later, but Coach, first, let's get to the gamesmanship at the weigh-in. I thought it was kind of funny, but it started to turn kind of scary because they had the weigh-in at the new Hyatt Hotel in downtown San Antonio, and they put it in a very small ballroom. So it was packed, and all the Argentines were making a ton of noise. What realistically was only about 30 to 40 people sounded like about 400 with the amount of noise that they were making during the weigh-in. And so when it comes time for Brian Castano to step onto the scale, his manager, the always outspoken but somewhat affable Sebastian Contursi, follows Brian Castano and starts to create a wedge. He stands right behind his fighter and sticks his arm out to keep Charlo and Team Charlo back away from his fighter. And he was complaining to the commission, saying that there were too many members on the weigh-in stage. Your thoughts on that? Did he have a valid complaint on Friday, the weigh-in?
Hell yeah, he did. Look, the commission should have took better control of that, okay? Like in Vegas, you're only allowed the coach and the fighter on stage when you weigh in, and the rest are commission members or, promoters, or the promoters in the background, okay? That's it. When you get 1 million people on the stage, Joe, you're setting off a potential riot, okay?
Yep.
Remember when Clarissa Shields' uncle hit fucking Bashir Ali on stage? He had
Oh
no
my gosh!
on stage.
James
What
Ali
the hell is he
Bashir.
doing on stage?
James Ali Bashir. That's right.
Yeah. Come on, man. When you get that many people that don't belong on stage, man, that's ingredients for a possible riot. And yeah, he had a good point, man. Sebastian, what's his name, Joe?
Sebastian Contursi. Yeah.
I met him a couple times. I never talked to him, but
you knew him back when he was managing Marcos Maidana. That's
it.
when I first met him.
That's when I first met him. Yeah, but he had a legit point, man. I mean, Charlo, man, he's got too many people in his crew, man. It was they shouldn't have had all those people on that stage. It just should have just been Derek James and Charlo himself.
Coach, that wasn't just a crew. That was a posse.
Oh.
But I tell you what then, and so because of that, and because of Sebastian Contursi standing right beside his fighter, creating that shield and trying to keep Team Charlo away, well, Jermell had the wherewithal and he had the insight. It was very insightful. He said, "Hey, man, what are you doing standing right behind and right beside your fighter? Are you trying to help him cheat?" So Jermell started yelling at him and cussing at him because he thought he was trying to pull an old school trick to help his fighter make weight. Gogue, could you shed some light on that old school trick?
Oh, yeah. I've seen that happen before. True story. I don't want to give no names out, man, but, I just see from my experience. I remember this one damn fighter, main event. What happened was I was at the hotel with them, and they were practicing that technique of, where the coach got behind the fighter, lift him up by the butt, take a little weight off him so he can make weight. And I said, "Man, what are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, my guy's over 7 pounds." I go, "What? The weigh-in's in a half hour. How are you going to make it?" He goes, we'll make it. We'll make it. Then I seen the way they were doing it. I'm like, oh, God. So when they went to the weigh-in, one of the guys distracted the head commission guy. I'm not going to name who he is. And that trainer got behind the fighter and did what they were practicing in that hotel. They did it at the fight. This motherfucker, the weight was 135. He weighed 133 and a half. That guy made 133 and a half in his life. Shocked everybody. I'm like, I ain't going to tell you, the promoter, the matchmaker called me, like, "What happened, man? He never made that weight before in his life." I told him the whole situation. He goes, "Oh, okay. Yeah." But anyway,
a lot of times they'll help lift him up, or they will put their foot right behind the scale and have the fighter put the heel right on the end of the trainer's foot, and he'll lean back, take some of the weight off. Yeah. So that's what Jermell thought that they were trying to do. So that's what started the entire back and forth between Contursi and Charlo. And it almost and I thought it was comical at first, but then it started to get a little big bigger,
yeah.
and it started to get a little scary. And in that close place, boy, you couldn't escape. We were packed like sardines in the weigh-in room.
Yep.
And yeah, you couldn't get away. It was really hilarious, guys. But so that was that at the weigh-in. All's well that ends well. There were no punches thrown. No one shoved each other. And I tell you what, it was just a lot of fun. It just made for a big fight atmosphere.
Yeah, it got everybody excited it got everybody excited all over social media for the fight the next day.
That's right. It felt like a real fight. Like there was genuine bad blood there.
So
it just made for a tremendous fight. Yep. So let's go to the fight now, Coach. And obviously, Coach Gogue, you did a brilliant job breaking down the keys to victory on your pre-fight video that we put out the Thursday before the fight. In your opinion, who followed your keys to victory most closely, and what difference did it make, Coach?
Oh, Castano. Remember I told you, Joe? His key was to apply intelligent pressure. And one of the keys to applying intelligent pressure is being patient, okay? Using good footwork, keeping your hands up tight, closing that distance, a little bit of head movement. He used a little bit of the jab sometimes to get closer, and it worked. When he used the jab and put it in Charlo's face, Charlo couldn't counter with them big shots, the straight right hands or the left hook. And what did I tell you? Drive him back to the ropes, make him a stationary target. Okay? That's what he did consistently, a lot through the whole fight. He let Castano apply his game plan better than his. And you know what I mean? Even Andre Ward was tweeting about it, you know what I mean, during the fight, saying the same exact things I was saying. Charlo needs to get off the ropes, keep it in the center of the ring. Castano needs to keep pushing him back by the ropes, where he becomes a stationary target, and he gets that momentum, Joe.
Yeah.
When you're a stationary target, he can put them combinations together. Okay, and Charlo, that was his biggest tactical mistake he made the whole fight, going back to the ropes. Okay, and not only when he was on the ropes, Joe. If you go back to the rope, look, Joe. There's some fighters that just could push you on the ropes, but you gotta have. You got to have the skill sets to defend yourself and fight off the ropes proficiently, a.k.a. James Toney, Orlando Salido. Them guys were excellent masters at fighting off the ropes, okay? Charlo doesn't have the fundamental skills sets on knowing how to fight off the ropes defensively or offensively. Defensively, he stands too high. He squares up on the ropes with his head high. And his gloves were a little low. If you're going to stay on the ropes, Joe, defensively, that's the number one thing you got to when you get pushed back on the ropes, you got to think defense first. Don't even think about countering or throwing or any type of offensive tactic. Because if you do, Joe, you're going to leave yourself open for shots. The short contact shots of Castano. So the first thing you should do is once you get on the ropes. What do? You drop down low. I told you last week in my my breakdown, didn't I, Joe? Montente abajo, stay low.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah. Then you have the right fundamental stance. Instead of standing by the ropes, squared up with your head high, where you're a punching bag, stay low. Point that lead shoulder. Angle your body. Keep them hands up nice and tight. Charlo had his gloves in a closed position where his face was exposed. The best thing to do was open them gloves up, cover that face. I call it tight defense, apretada defensa. I tell my Mexican fighters, have them gloves open, protecting your face. So when Castano hits you, he's hitting the sides of the glove. He's not hitting your chin or your temples. And Charlo his defense wasn't tight around his face. He didn't position his gloves the correct way. He was standing too high. He didn't stay low. Okay, Joe, that were the main things. But he got adjusted. Once, as the fight went on, you could see him, he started dropping low. He started dropping low under those punches. He started making those adjustments, okay? But when he stood up high with his back squared up against the rope, he was getting hit. That, to me, was the main thing Charlo did wrong. But the thing is, Castano took advantage of it. He applied his game plan more consistently through the whole fight. That's why 85% of the people in boxing thought he won the fight. Brian Castano.
I tell you what, let's go to the very first round. First round was just pretty much a feeling out round. And in the second round, Castano tried to push forward, pushed him back to the ropes, started to let his hands go in combination.
Yeah.
And Charlo made him pay, slipping and countering with that sharp, compact left hook on the inside. Hurt Castano in the second round, driving him back. He made his presence felt early.
Exactly.
Castano seemed to adjust, though, and in the very next round, caught Charlo with the overhand right, followed with the left hook, and that seemed to stagger Charlo on the ropes.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, it seemed like it was predominantly Castano's fight.
Yeah.
For the first half of the fight, Coach, I had it scored 4-2 in favor of Castano. Did you see it that way?
Exactly. I scored it the same way, Joe. 4-2 for Castano.
Go ahead, sir.
I scored it the same way, Joe. 4-2.
Okay, very good. And so in the back half of the fight, we saw Coach Derek James, try to put a sense of urgency in his man, Jermell Charlo, and say, hey, what are you doing? You're making this fight a lot more difficult than you have to. Work behind the jab. Work behind your jab. He's taking what you're giving him. Quit making this a more difficult fight than it has to be. Coach, did you like what he was telling him, and did it work?
Yeah, Joe. He had remember I told you last week, Joe, when I was, going over my keys to victory for Charlo and Castano. Mm-hmm. It ain't fucking rocket scientists. Okay? Charlo's game plan was to keep the fight long, rangy. Keep it long and at range where he can work off that jab, work off them straight 1-2s, the straight right hands, okay? And the counters with his left hook and everything. Mm-hmm. But, but the thing is, Joe, when Charlo could have did a lot more stuff. He could have and should have done a lot more stuff, but he didn't. I'm going to tell you what. He should have used his jab more, okay? Not only one jab. He was only throwing one jab at a time. He should have been doubling and tripling up on that jab, okay, just to keep him at bay. Then once you got your jab going, hey, then the combinations follow. That right hand, the hooks, whatever combination, you're out there throwing. I would have threw that straight right hand to the body a lot too. He was expecting that right hand to the head. So you got to mix it up. Remember I told you, Joe?
That's right.
When you throw, just like when you throw the jab when you throw the jab to the head, you keep doing that. The opponent, he's gonna get onto that, and it's gonna be harder for you to hit him. So you got to mix that target up with your lead hand. I would have threw that jab to the body sometimes just to throw him off. I would have threw that straight right hand to the body to throw him off. Give him a different look, okay?
Coach, do you think maybe because it seemed like Charlo was getting hit consistently with that sneaky overhand right, do you think that's what made him a little more reluctant to throw out the jab?
Yeah. Joe, if a guy tries to counter your jab, what do? You feint him. That's another thing.
Very good. Yep, he wasn't feinting.
He hurt him. One second, I'm trying to get this screen. It keeps shaking.
That's all right.
He hurt him. The second round, he got his attention. Mm-hmm. That means when you nail your guy with a good former WBA world champion Loretto Garza. I used to work with him when I was a younger trainer. You know what I mean? And he taught me that when you nail your guy with some good shots, that's when feints start becoming effective. Okay? Because once you get their attention and you start feinting them, they become they become less hesitant to counter.
Yep.
All right. They become
they start biting on every feint and they start becoming more tentative versions of themselves.
No, they get off their game plan, Joe.
Yep.
Okay. They lose the thought process on what they're going to do to you because they're so worried about what you're going to do to them. That's what a good feint does. It breaks mentally. It breaks you down, and you get off your game plan. Okay, and that's what a good feint does. And Charlo, did you see him feint the whole fight? I didn't see him feint with a jab all night.
Not at all.
He hurt him with the right hand. I didn't see him feint with the right hand all night. I didn't see him feint with the left hook all night.
Nope.
If he would have mixed his feints up with them jabs, it would have set up his offense from range a lot better.
Indeed.
But this is basic shit. Terrence Crawford, Andre Ward, they're masters of knowing how to apply all this shit I'm saying. They masters of working that jab effectively. Floyd Mayweather, Floyd Mayweather, he's the best. He knows how to work that jab up and down. He knows how to feint you. He knows how to, keep you off rhythm. He knows how to mix his punches up. And that's what Charlo was just doing the same shit all the time. Right? That's why I was pissed off at him last night. He could have and should have done more last night. How about when he got inside, Joe? I didn't see one fucking uppercut.
Not one. And that was one of your big keys to victory was that right uppercut as he's coming in.
Was it there, Joe, or not?
Not once, Coach. Never threw it once.
Was it there?
It was there. It was there all night. It was there all night. Yep. He never threw it once.
How come? Because he was in position. He didn't have the proper fundamental stance to throw that uppercut. He was too. Remember I told you, Joe, his back was against the ropes, squared up. You can't throw a fucking uppercut like that. You gotta stay low, have a little bit of weight set on your back leg, so you could drive off it and rotate your body with the uppercut. What you do is you set your weight on that back leg, Joe, a little. You have that lead shoulder pointed. Then when you drive off that back leg, you turn your weight into that punch. And, oh, my God, it would have landed, man, just like his brother did. His brother landed that punch against Derevchenko. His brother didn't have a problem throwing it. But he didn't have the fundamentals, Joe. In order to throw the punches, the right punches, your stance got to be correct. Your feet got to be set correct. And you got to look for the opportunities to throw it, okay? And how about the body work, Joe? He didn't go to the body.
Nope, didn't go to the body to try and slow down his assault. Nope.
What was it there, Joe? The body?
It was there all night, brother. It was there. Look, whenever you have a fighter, when he gets into range, letting his hands go in regularity that way, you've got those openings. He's giving you those openings.
I would have been like Roberto Duran. As soon as he started throwing, I would have dropped down and started hitting that body.
Yep.
Or hit him with the uppercuts. And, Joe, that's how you discourage a bull like Castano. You start hitting him with some good shots, you might hurt him again, and he'll back out. Look what happened when he hurt him, Joe, with that counter left hook. Or that time he hit him with that jab. I mean, that right hand power jab.
Ooh, yep. You know what's funny? And that was a big difference, right? When you look at the judges' scorecards, right? Steve Weisfeld scored the fight 114 in favor of Castano, and the difference, right, was that 2-point round. That 2-point round in the 10th he gave to Charlo. He scored it 10-8.
Really?
Gogue, did you see that? Was that justifiably a 10-8 round in which Charlo hurt him, and then it was all Charlo from there for the rest of the round? Does that merit a 2-point round in your mind?
He dominated him.
Yep.
Yeah. He had no problem with it either.
Yep.
His legs were shaking. All right.
Yeah. I had no problem with that either. So the judges at ringside, even though they were somewhat all over the place, at least one of the judges, Nelson Vasquez, with that score of 117, 111, all three judges scored the final 3 rounds in favor of Jermell Charlo. And once again, Derek James pulling his horse across the finish line, telling him that he needed a knockout. You got to step it up, son. And he, finished all 3 rounds like a champ. And that created a draw on all 3 judges' scorecards. Final scorecards, Tim Cheatham scores the bout 114-114 like I did, 6 rounds apiece. Nelson Vasquez from Puerto Rico scores it 9 rounds to 3 in favor of Jermell Charlo. Steve Weisfeld from New Jersey scored the fight 7 rounds to 5 in favor of Castano with the 2-point swing in the 10th, making a 114-113. And there's your verdict, a split decision draw. Gogue, after the fight, everyone was stinking.
Yeah.
All over Nelson Vasquez's scorecard, 117-111. And yes, that's a terribly egregious scorecard. And you wonder what fight he was looking at. But, Gogue, I don't think it was enough to take away from the majesty of the event. It was a great fight. Excellent. And it was an elite level chess match. I absolutely loved it. And in my opinion, Coach, too many fans, too many sports writers, because that's all they were talking about after the fight last night. And I said, look, he could have scored all 12 rounds in favor of Charlo, and the verdict was still the same. Look, you're making too big a deal of this scorecard. At the end of the night, it was of no consequence. It was still going to be a draw. Your thoughts on the scorecard, and do you think they're making too big a deal of this, or do you think it's a justifiable gripe?
Joe, what do I think about it?
Yep.
I think I should get to know Nelson Vasquez a little bit better and take him out to dinner so he could be a judge in some of my big fights. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Look, and also I heard so many people complaining about Texas. And once again, it's become herd mentality, complaining about the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. But in reality, Coach, Tim Cheatham from Nevada, Nelson Vasquez from Puerto Rico, Steve Weisfeld from New Jersey.
Good judge.
Okay, Tim Cheatham and Steve Weisfeld are two very competent judges, and their scorecards were almost identical. But then Nelson Vasquez, yeah, and then you look back on his record, he's never had a huge assignment like this. Why did he get this assignment? Once again, this is not a Texas problem, guys.
Nelson Vasquez had some big assignments before, if I recall.
The most recent. Now, once again, he's an older judge. He's been scoring fights since 1987, right?
Yeah, I've known him way back. I like I said, I know a lot of judges and referees and all that shit because you're in the boxing business. I met the guy a couple times, but I never got to talk to him. But I know he's been around.
Yeah, well, perhaps a scorecard he just did a couple weeks ago in Minneapolis, right, on Fox. He was one of the judges for Apochi versus Glanton, that brilliant cruiserweight bout that we saw a couple weeks ago on Fox.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the writing should have been on the wall there because two of the judges, Mike Fitzgerald and John Mariano, on that night scored that fight identically. 95-94 in favor of Brandon Glanton. Nelson Vasquez created, though, a split decision verdict by scoring the fight 96-93 in favor of Apochi. Right? So, I mean, he saw it completely. Maybe, and maybe he's like Judge or Dr. Lou Moret, where maybe it's time you go on a sabbatical, or maybe it's time you're getting a little too old and maybe it's time to retire, step away from the ringside. Your thoughts, Coach, because this happens quite a bit in boxing where it's time to be put out to pasture. Your thoughts on that?
I have no control. That's commission's job. I don't get involved in the politics of boxing, whatever I say here ain't gonna matter, And Nelson Vasquez, a good guy. He's a company guy. He wants to keep on getting, regular gigs. So,
well, I tell you,
he's a company guy.
Well, scorecards like this are no way to get big assignments.
Want to bet, Joe? You want to bet? If you're in good with the promoter or a certain sanctioning body, they're going to keep using you. Trust me, Joe.
Well, now you're starting to sound a little like Teddy Atlas, Coach.
No, come on. That's the way the business has always been. It's been like
Yeah.
that since the
Well,
80s. It's been
well,
like certain judges are always used. They give bullshit, scorecards, and guess what? They still keep getting work. That's the way it is, man.
yeah. Well, I tell you what. Let's hope he doesn't judge the next one. Now, here's the big question, Gogi. And so there you have it, guys. That was your verdict from Saturday night in San Antonio, Texas, at the home of the Spurs AT&T Center. Yeah, split decision draw is
Yeah.
what you got. So here's a big question, Gogi. Both men felt that they deserved to get their hand raised in victory. In your mind, does this happen again? I know it should,
Yeah.
but please answer me this question. Does it happen later this year?
Oh, shit. It should. It should. All right. Hey, Don Targanova's told me when you got a great fight, and it ends when you got a great epic fight, and it ends with a lot of controversy. It's hot. So the rematch should be done as soon as possible when the
Yep.
skill is still hot.
Yep.
The kettle is still hot. Okay.
And it'll be an even bigger fight. Absolutely.
But you don't need to marinate this fight where both guys fight a couple of inferior fighters before they get this rematch. No, go right into the rematch, just like Gotti and Ward. Okay, Sugar Ray Robinson, Bobo Olsen. Through the history, where the rematches were made instantly and everything. But the way these guys fight nowadays, man, every 9 months.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, let's talk about this because brother Antonio from California, he raised a good point. He says, Mr. IOTBA, Heron, Gogi, if Mel moves up in weight, who does Castano fight next? So before you answer that, Coach, I'm going to ask you this. Now, it seemed that for either it was Castano or something was causing an inconsistent work rate for Jermell Charlo. Customarily, he's one of the more economical fighters of the division, but last night was downright ridiculous where, yeah, he should have been letting his hands go with greater regularity. Castano was giving him plenty of open targets. In your mind, why did he have such an inconsistent work rate? Was it a product of him outgrowing the 154-pound weight division? In your mind, what caused this?
Mental, Joe. He gave that guy too much fucking respect. You know what I mean? When you give a guy too much respect, meaning you're too worried about what he's going to do, and you're not totally 100% focused on how you want to beat his ass. All right, Joe? When you're 100% focused on wanting to beat his ass, you don't give a shit what he brings to the table. But Charlo he's playing it too safety first, being too cautious, not getting off, not working that jab. Joe, if he would have worked that jab effectively, it would have set up everything. And with the feints, since he hurt him, okay, the feints would have been more. Castano would have been more receptive to those feints and everything. It would have frozen more, got him off his game plan. It would have gave Charlo the opportunity to exploit the holes in Castano's defense and everything, and back him up. Okay,
indeed,
it would have let him because when this guy backs up, he can't fight. He's best when he's coming forward. Okay, and you gotta, like I said, you gotta stop. You gotta figure out ways to stop that forward pressure. And the way you do that, Joe, he's a bully. You punch him in the mouth. You get their attention like he did in round 2 or 3 when he hit him with that counter left hook. Yeah.
Second round, sir. Second round.
Yeah. Yep. So
say what, Brian Castano seemed to recover beautifully though in the very next round.
Excellent.
When he landed that overhand right, followed with that left hook to the body and head. Yeah. It was brilliant, and seemed to really buckle Charlo, evening the score, leveling the playing field. I tell you what, Coach Gogue, you brought up something very interesting earlier, talking about possibly why we didn't see the very best version of Charlo. And once again, giving all credit to Brian Castano, he fought a brilliant fight, and he showed anyone who wasn't aware, well, I think now they've been fully introduced to the real Brian Castano and understand boy, he's a legitimate world champion at 154 pounds. He's not Jason Rosario. No offense to Jason Rosario, but he's on the next level. He's on another level. Coach, but you brought up something very interesting. You noticed something watching Charlo Castano All Access in how Charlo was preparing and how he conducted his camp. Your thoughts and something that you noticed.
Look, Joe, I watch. Charlo's got a YouTube channel. I like it, man. Yeah. Jermell.
Yep.
They got a YouTube channel, and it's about their lifestyle. But look, Joe, when you're getting ready for a big fight like that, or any big fight where you're defending your title, especially this fight, back in the 90s, we used to train at Big Bear Lake. Larry Goosen, he had a gym up there. The first high altitude training center in California and probably the United States. In the 90s, it was the hottest gym in the world. Every top fighter in the world trained there. You name them. I was there all the time. I seen them all. Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, Terry Norris, Orlin Norris, Fernando Vargas, Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every great trainer I seen up there. Manuel Stewart. Okay, he used to train in Larry's gym with Lennox before he opened up his own gym. Eddie Futch used to bring his guys, Mike McCallum, Wayne McCullough, Montel Griffin, and Big Daddy Bo. Kenny Adams used to come bring his top guys, Kennedy McKinney and others. Joe Goosen used to bring his top horses, Michael Nunn, the Rellis brothers, etc. Frank Lyles. I mean, everybody. It was the hottest gym in the world. And Larry, he had it rocking and rolling from 10 in the morning to 7 at night. It was packed. And De La Hoya, Shane Mosley, Vargas, they all started their careers there. Now, here's what I'm trying to say, Joe. They all went to camp.
Yep.
Marvin Hagler, every time he got ready for a big fight, he didn't live in his house and stay at home. He made those necessary sacrifices to get away from all the distractions, to get in camp, to get focused, so he could get in the best condition. Best condition mentally and physically before he went into those big fights with, especially Tommy Hearns. Okay,
cool.
So that's what camp does, Joe. It gets you away from those distractions, and it gets your mind right, your focus right, where you can see, Joe. If your mind and your focus ain't right, you're not going to be able to get in that tip-top physical condition you need, okay, to perform the best you can be, okay, to execute your strategy and game plan the best you could be. And I think Jermell, man, I just don't like it when fighters, they train at home, they live with their family and kids are around them all the time. They're in, everybody's calling them because a big fight's coming up, that's, you got to eliminate all that, man. You know what I mean? You got to make those necessary sacrifices to take your game to the next level. You know what I mean? And to me, it was just too. It was too comfortable over there where he was training. Okay, being around his family, training in his gym. The comfort level was, it was too high. De La Hoya, he always made sure he trained in Big Bear, Shane Mosley, to avoid all those distractions. When he was living in LA, because if he trained in LA, God dog, man, he would have never been this successful. So he got away for 2 months and isolated himself in prison, like Marvin Hagler would say. He would go to prison. And to me, Joe, that you could become. Gennady Golovkin does that right now. Gennady. He goes to camp in Big Bear. He still trains at Big Bear at Shane Mosley's house. Shane Mosley, he builds himself a gym in his house over there. It's a big gym. He got a ring, a couple heavy bags. In fact, we had camp up there one time when Canelo was training for Mayweather. He trained up there. But, you get away, and you make those sacrifices and, get all those distractions you don't need. And you get focused on getting in the best condition, like I said, you can possibly get into, and you focus on your game plan and how you're going to execute your strategy. Okay. But to me, that's making the extra sacrifices you need to get to the next level. Now, I believe if he would have made those type of sacrifices, you know what I mean, he would have been performing at a higher level. But when you train at home, it's been successful. I can't complain. Okay, but comfort level, Joe. You got to make yourself uncomfortable to get better.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? That's my philosophy. You got to make yourself uncomfortable. So, to take his next level, to take his game to the next level, I think there's got to be adjustments in his training, and he's got to get rid of a lot of his crew. Man, there's just too many people, man, that hang out with him, man. Keep it to the trainer, strength and conditioning coach, and maybe a chef in your place, and that's it.
Yeah, because they all seem to show up at the weigh-in, Coach.
Oh my God! Yeah, you were there. You were there.
Well, I tell you what, and in the event that they don't immediately jump into a rematch, which I think would be a horrid idea from a business perspective.
Yeah.
You look at. Let me ask you if you don't mind seeing these matchups. I'll tell you this: if we don't see an immediate rematch, I'm really liking Brian Castano's mandatory challenger, who is big punching Tim Tszyu from Australia. Yeah. Brian Castano versus Tim Tszyu is a huge money event in Australia if that fight takes place down there. Also, you've got Jermell, who's got 3 mandatory challengers. Or he could fight the regular WBA title holder, which is Erislandy Lara. You also have Bakram Murtazaliev. You also have Erickson Lubin in the WBC and Sebastian Fundora also waiting in the wings. Coach, I have no problem with any of those matches, but why not strike while the iron's hot and give an immediate rematch? That seems
hot.
Yep.
The rematch is hot. Come on, man. If you want to be great, I don't think Castano will have a problem taking a fight. Charlo might have a problem, okay? He might want to take an easy fight, you know what I mean, to pad his bank account. But if you want to be great, you know what I mean? If you want to make a legacy for yourself, what I mean? Prove yourself and beat this guy, which I think he could do. He's got a taste of what Castano brings to the table, and I think when he looks at the tape, the replay of this fight, he's going to see all the mistakes he made, and he's going to correct them. Okay, he's going to see all the things he didn't do that he should have done, and he's going to make those he's going to make the necessary adjustments, Joe.
So let me ask you this, Coach. Then so let me ask you this, Coach. Then, do you think Brian Castano fought the best fight he could possibly fight on Saturday night, and that Jermell Charlo has the higher ceiling to improve?
Yep. That's what I'm trying to say.
Very good.
Brian Castano fought the best he could. He ain't gonna fight no much better. What you're gonna see if they fight again is Brian Castano in his last fight. He's only one way he knows how to fight. Charlo, there's a lot of things he could do. Number one, he uses his footwork, move around the ring better, work more consistently and proficiently using his jab and feints, putting his combinations together, adding some combinations to his arsenal, okay? So he's not so predictable, throwing the same shit all the time, and working inside, start tapping that body. How about the uppercut, Joe? He didn't,
never threw it one night. That was shocking, Coach.
You know what, Joe? Let me tell you this. When a fighter doesn't do something in a fight, that tells me one thing. They didn't do it during training camp. They didn't practice it religiously, where it becomes a habit.
That says it all, Coach.
That's my experience.
Tell you what, you have a point. I mean, look what the isolation and moving his camp from his hometown in Baltimore to Las Vegas, Nevada. Look what wonders it did for Tank Davis, right?
Oh yeah, he got away from all the distractions. You know what I mean? Some guys like Mayweather, they could train in luxury. They're just freaks of nature. Manny Pacquiao, he has to leave the Philippines and go to LA to get away from all the bullshit. But me, a high percentage of the time when you go to camp, seclude yourself where you could get totally focused mentally. Once you get this right, Joe, everything comes into play. Look at Crawford. He goes to Colorado Springs.
Yep.
He bought a house over there in Colorado Springs and trains in that high altitude. Okay? All right? He knows the importance of training up there. Me, I'm a big believer in training in altitude, Joe. Like I said, in the 90s, when I used to train my guys up there in Larry's gym, I seen the difference in your conditioning when you go fight at sea level. Yep. Remember I told you, Joe, to the fans out there that didn't listen to the last couple of shows, when you train at high altitude, the air is thinner, okay? You got to put your body works 3 times harder, meaning one round of sparring at high altitude is like going 3 rounds at sea level. 1 mile of running at high altitude is like going 3 miles at sea level. So you know what I mean, Joe? You're working your body 3 times harder. And not only that, Joe, your body goes to a metamorphosis. It changes. It creates more, your body naturally creates more blood cells, red blood cells. It creates naturally more red blood cells in your spleen. Well, what are red blood cells? Them are the cells that deliver the oxygen to your muscles. So if you have more red blood cells in your body, guess what, Joe? You go down the stretch. You know what I mean? Your muscles aren't gonna be depleted of the oxygen you need to perform. So simple. A simple. You could get that shit illegally like Greg LeMond. You took that EPO. EPO is EPO increases your red blood cell count. You know what I mean? You could do that, like Greg LeMond, man. Come on, Joe. Remember that, Joe? He was winning Tour de France year after year, just leaving these guys miles behind. It's fucking impossible. Yeah. Well, we found out the reason why. He was on that shit.
Well, that's for another show, Gogue. Well, I could devote an entire 60-minute program to my thoughts about the rampant PED use in boxing and in pro sports. Period. We'll get into that some other show. But Gogue, great stuff. We want to thank Peter for joining us. He says great stuff from Coach Gogue. Absolutely, every single week. Pete. And Antonio says, I want Coach Gogue to train my son. Gogue is gold. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us, brother.
If he's the next Mike Tyson, yes.
So here's our brother Correa. He says they both should have thought they won in terms of Castano and Charlo. They both thought they won. Let's do it all over again, guys. If Jermell is still comfortable making the weight, that's a no-brainer. Thank you for joining us, Mr. IOTBA. And, guys, look forward to our show tomorrow at this same time. Me and Mr. IOTBA are going to chop it up on the things that Coach Gogue does not want to address, all the BS that is currently revolving around fandom. Go ahead, sir.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course, sir. Shoot.
Isn't Correa, if you're listening, aren't you boys with Derek James and Earl Spence? I thought that's your boys over there in the Metroplex.
That's a soap opera in itself, sir. He used to be. Yeah, I'll let Correa tell it to you sometime. But yeah, he used to be in every single camp, and I'd rather not say, but something happened where they had somewhat of a dissension there, and so now he is no longer attached to Team Spence and Derek James and their camp. I mean, he's a professional, though. He's a professional, and he has nothing but respect for everyone in that camp. But he just would rather not affiliate with that camp any longer. And I'll let him tell you that story sometime, sir.
All right, I thought they were real tight. I thought they were boys and everything. In the Metroplex.
They used to be. They absolutely used to. Okay. But I will say this. He's going to be covering for Fight Saga because he's going to be covering on August 14th at the Star at Frisco. Virgil Ortiz versus Gigas Cavallasquez.
Ooh, good fight. Great fight.
Oh boy, that's a tough test. Very quickly, Coach. What are your thoughts on that fight, sir? Who wins and why?
And this is a good fight to test Ortiz to see where he stands in the food chain. Okay, Cavallasquez, is that his name, Joe?
Gigas Cavallasquez from Lithuania.
He could punch. Okay, he's physically strong, dude. You know what I mean?
He's arguably the hardest puncher in the division, Coach.
Oh yeah, this is a man. Look, Don Chargan, when he was coming up, when I was coming up, he told me basically, what did he say? Oh yeah, when he matched guys, every time he matched his top prospects coming up, he stayed away from punchers.
Yep.
That was his philosophy. Stay away from punchers. Now, Golden Boy's matching this guy who's a big damn good puncher, you know what I mean?
Yep.
One punch could change the whole fight. Dangerous fight, but a good fight.
Yep, I tell you what, there have been several times, because I'm very familiar with Gigas, and once again, I think possibly, Coach, and this is just my knowledge of Gigas Cavallasquez, because one of my guys that I was doing publicist work for, Benjamin Whitaker, had to fight him one time, so I did intensive scouting on Gigas, and one of the reasons why I think they chose this fight and felt comfortable doing it, Robert Garcia spent a lot of time with Gigas Cavallasquez and used to be his head trainer for almost for a little over half a decade. So do you think maybe that's why he felt comfortable taking this assignment for Virgil Ortiz?
Look, Gigas doesn't have a promote. That Cavallasquez is not with Top Rank no more.
No, he's not with Top Rank. He's a free agent.
Yeah. What the hell, man? When there's an opportunity that comes up, you got to take it. You can't be.
No. My point is, though, Robert Garcia is now the head trainer for Virgil Ortiz, and he used to be the head trainer for Gigas Cavallasquez.
Well, you know what? Golden Boy calls the shots, man. Robert's the trainer, okay?
Yeah.
He'll give his input and everything, man. But Robert he's a good boxing guy. He knows what his guy's capable of. So, if he gives his blessing, he's confident. It's going to be a tough fight, but he feels he could beat Gigas. What's that guy? Iga Klofty. What's that guy's name?
No. Just call him Gigas, Coach. It's Cavallasquez.
Yeah, Gigas. So, plus, look, Joe, every big fight, well, how many losses has that guy got? One?
Just one to Crawford. That's it.
Yeah, he got knocked out real bad by Crawford. You might not come back the same after you knocked out. You take an ass whooping like that. So it's a good fight, a dangerous fight, man. Let me tell you, man. When you got a young prospect, man, I try to avoid those punches, but sometimes, you got to roll the dice. This is fucking boxing, okay? All right.
Yeah. But you're absolutely and you're absolutely right. And Don used to always tell us as well, Mr. Warwick used to always tell us, don't get too high on a prospect until you see how well he can take a punch. Yeah, and we're gonna find out, Coach, on August 14th whether or not Virgil Ortiz can take a punch. That's for sure. Yeah.
You know what, Joe?
Go ahead, sir.
Me, that guy's mental. To me, he's got the perfect psyche. He's got a good. I don't know about the perfect, but he's got a good psyche. Meaning, he's got the calmness, the composure. I think he has that mental resiliency in him, that competitive fire and spirit to battle back. If there's a tough time in a fight, if he gets hurt or he's losing the fight, he has that. He has the ability to put it in a sixth gear. To get that momentum back on his side. So, I think he'll be able to handle any tough spot in a fight when he fights Cavallasquez. You know what I mean? Oh man, it's a tough fight, but Virgil's game plan, get close, devastating body puncher. This guy can't fight in the pocket very good at all. So if once he starts breaking him down with body shots, as the fight goes on, he can end the fight just like Crawford with a spectacular knockout.
Well, we'll see what happens. And Mr. Corey Bradshaw, Mr. IOTBA, is going to be there covering it for Fight Saga. Thank you, brother. It's a pleasure to be working with you. And I tell you what, we're going to end this segment, Coach, because we're almost time. We've been on the air now for about 55 minutes. And
Okay.
just to commemorate last year or last week, right? We celebrated the 59th birthday of ring legend Julio Cesar Chavez.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted you to give your take on his legendary career. This is something, though, that I want you to address, because there are a lot of fans these days that really didn't pay close attention or wasn't really coherent of how Chavez actually built his stature in the sport, and they criticize his path of progress, and they criticize his resume, seeing that he had, well, too many lapses between big-time title fights. What are your thoughts in defense of Julio Cesar Chavez?
Look, the guy came up the old school way, like all the great Mexican legends do. You know, you look at those records. I mean, you look at a lot of them guys, like Jose Luis Ramirez. Shit, they had a shitload of fights by the time they quit, over 100. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Chavez had over 100. When he was coming up, Joe, he didn't have no major promoter behind him. So what do? You go through the Mexican minor league system. The club shows, fighting for $100 a fight, real cheap pay. The opponents weren't, top of the line guys. But hey, Joe, he's getting fights. He's staying active. He's cultivating his craft. Okay. And, and he's main thing, Joe, when you're consistent at something, you're going to get better. Okay. And it keeps you focused too when you're active all the time, Joe. You don't, fighters these days, what do they do? They fight a fight and you don't see them around for another 6 months. Meaning, when you're not getting ready for a fight, you live like a normal human being. You know what I mean? You go out and party, stay out late. You eat the wrong foods. Your body gets heavy and all that stuff. Then when you go to camp, you gotta take all that weight off. And, but if you stay busy all the time, stay active, Joe, you don't have to, you don't have to lose weight all the time because you're always in shape. You don't have to spar a lot in the gym, Joe. Okay. Because when you fight a lot, you don't need to spar to get in shape. You just spar to get your timing and rhythm right before you fight. Okay. And Chavez, he learned he developed his craft, his foundation in the Mexican minor league system, which I'm doing right now with a lot of these young kids up here. It's, to me, 135 pounds and down, or 140 pounds and down, 135 pounds and down. Mexico has the best minor league system, club show system to develop fighters. Okay. They got a lot of club shows here. Remember I told you a few weeks ago in Tijuana, they do 3 a week alone.
Wow.
3 club shows. They have over 300 individual fights a month alone. Mexico City, they do two a month. Guadalajara, you name it. Cancun, Monterrey, the border towns, Mexico. Reynosa. What's that? Brownsville. What's that town by Brownsville? Matamoros. All over Mexico. Aguas Caliente here in Leon. Yeah, the club shows are everywhere. Not like in the States where club shows are dead or like extinct like the dinosaur. Club shows are important. They develop your craft. And that's what happened with Chavez. He developed his craft, going to the minor league system. But Joe, here's another thing. Joe Goosen told me this long ago. I told you this before. You might not be fighting somebody when tough when you're going through this minor league system in Mexico, but you're going through the professional experience. Meaning you got to prepare for the fight. You got to make weight. You got to go to the you got to pack your bags, go to the arena, sit in that room. Okay, that's when the jitters start creeping up. Wrapping your hands, getting loose. Shadow boxing, hitting the pads, me as a coach, I'm going over the game plan again in their head, rehearsing everything. Then you're doing the walkout. That's when, the jitters start a little bit more. Even though there's only 200, 300 people there, you know what I mean? Then you're walking up the steps. Okay, your guy's not sparring now. He's wearing small 8-ounce gloves. No headgear, not 16-ounce gloves, okay? There's 200, 300 people there. You step through the ropes. Hey, it's a fight now. Mm-hmm. Now the guy you might be fighting ain't the guy you might be fighting ain't Gervonta Tank Davis, but it's a fight, and you still got to whoop his ass and knock him out. So
that's right.
It's a professional experience you're getting. Okay, and it's no different from minor league baseball, Joe. You know that the guys go through the minor league system. Cheap money, fighting, playing in front of 200, 300 people, but they're learning their craft and they're gaining that experience. And that's what happened with Chavez. You know what I mean? He didn't have a big amateur background, Joe. He only had like maybe 15 amateur fights.
Yep.
So
learning on the job.
He learned on the job. Okay. So, but happy birthday to one of my heroes, El Gran Campeón, Mexico's greatest fighter of all time. Yeah.
Julio what's amazing, Cesar Coach? Chavez. You know what's amazing?
Cesar Chavez.
El Gran Campeón hecho en Mexico. Yep.
The Lion of Culiacan.
Sinaloa. I love it. One of a kind. I tell you what's amazing is, and a lot of people bring this up, and Antonio brought this up last week on the show, or maybe it was Peter. I don't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Said that will Canelo ever gain the same fanfare and fan adoration that Julio Cesar Chavez had from the Mexican nationals?
No.
Why do you think so, man, Coach?
Canelo lost a lot of respect when his mandatory was to fight Golovkin. Instead of fighting Golovkin, he gave up the belt. That's what do you call it, Joe? That's a dishonor. That's a disrespect to the Mexican heritage, the Mexican warrior.
That's as bad as quitting on your stool, Coach.
Yeah, that's showing that showed the Mexican people, all the great champions in the past, when they were when they had to fight the best, they fought them in their prime. See, Canelo, he's been protected real good. He fought the fighters in his career at the right times. Okay, at the right times. All right, when fighters were they were slipping. He waited 2 years when he turned that fight down with Golovkin. He waited 2 years for Gennady to get older. Okay, he waited for Golovkin to get older, get 2 years older. Then what happened, Joe? Everybody thought he lost that fight. I thought he lost that fight with Golovkin, and they gave it a draw. What happened in the rematch? He had to wait what? He didn't take the rematch immediately. He waited another year and a half. He remember he had to wait because he was he tested positive for PEDs from eating that Mexican beef, right? Well, all I know, he wasn't hesitant. He was hesitant to take that rematch with Golovkin.
Yeah.
All right.
Indeed.
Then he got caught with the PED. I mean, the beef thing. Come on, man. It ruined his legacy and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not. He's a hell of a fighter.
You're not casting aspersions.
Skills.
Yeah.
He got tremendous skills. Hell of a fighter. But you talked like Eric Morales said it best. He fought guys past their prime in their career, like Mosley, Miguel Cotto, and the way he won some of them titles, Joe. Like he won his first title by beating Ricky Hatton's brother. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. You don't see that on Chavez's record.
No.
Mm-mm.
No, you sure don't. I tell you what, Coach. Also, if you remember that first fight with Gennady Golovkin, there were a ton of Mexican fans who were actually rooting for Gennady Golovkin and his Mexican style.
That never happened to Chavez.
That never happened to Chavez. No.
Exactly. That never happened to Julio Cesar Chavez or Salvador Sanchez or Carlos Zarate or Juan Manuel Marquez, Eric Morales, Barrera. You know what I mean? They fought guys in their prime. When there was a rematch warranted, Joe, when there was a rematch warranted, they went right into the rematches. They didn't, they weren't hesitant. Canelo, he was hesitant to take that rematch with Golovkin, And since he beat Golovkin the second time, which is a big controversy, he didn't want that third. He remember that was one of the problems with Golden Boy. They guaranteed DAZN the rematch. They guaranteed DAZN the rematch without his permission. Okay.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean, Joe?
Well,
That
Coach,
fight was
Joe,
I know.
Go ahead, sir.
Joe, that fight was rough.
Yep.
It was physical and rough.
It was rough for both men. Yep.
And Canelo took a lot more punishment them 2 fights than he ever did in all the other fights.
You're absolutely right. So I tell you what, though, Coach, and Antonio says, happy birthday, Canelo Alvarez, who turns 31 today.
Happy birthday.
So you look at 31-year-old Canelo Alvarez could be facing, and once again, here's another question from our brother Antonio from Long Beach, California. Quick question, Coach. Eddie Hearn stated Caleb Plant was to meet the deadline to sign for the Canelo fight. Deadline passed. Your thoughts? Coach, in my opinion, you could very well hear this announced tomorrow if they did strike a deal. If not, you could be seeing finally, DAZN finally may get their wish several years later. Canelo Alvarez at 31 years of age fighting a 39-year-old Gennady Golovkin for a third time in September. Your thoughts on that fight, Coach?
Fight's going to be easier for Canelo. Canelo's in his prime right now. Golovkin, he's starting to, you know what I mean, Joe?
Yep.
It's going to be easier fight for Canelo.
But let me ask you this. Is it going to be easier than a fight with Caleb Plant?
Caleb Plant, you can see he's got, to me, I think he's got outstanding physical talent. But guess what, Joe? That's not good enough to improve yourself. That's not good enough to take your game up to the next levels, okay? You got to, since he won the title, he has fought absolutely nobody, okay?
You're right. Absolutely right.
How good did you get since he won the title, fought absolutely Mike Lee? Back in the days, that motherfucker was no more than a 6-round fighter. Now he defended his title against a 6-round fighter, basically. All right? Since he's won the title, he hasn't fought nobody to get him better. See, Joe, remember I told you to get better, you gotta go. You gotta be uncomfortable. Bottom line, you gotta go through some hard fights.
Gotta push yourself
to push you to the next level. He hasn't had that, Joe, since he's been champion. He hasn't had no hard fights to get him to to push him to the next levels. I don't know the guy. I never met him. You know what I mean? I'm just calling it from experience. Being in this racket a long time. But I'm not questioning his talent. He's got ability. He's athletic, good footwork, nice quick feet, quick hands, sharp combinations, smart. Has improved. When he first started out, I thought he sucked, but over the years he's improved and cultivated his craft. But to get to the level he's at right now, in order to keep climbing up the food chain, you got to fight tougher guys, and he hasn't done that. That's my observation.
So wait a minute. You didn't think him fighting the German Etzel Vincent Feigenbutz was a tough outing?
Oh, jeez. That guy was terrible. All the guys he fought were terrible since he's won the title. Right?
Coach, I do have to ask you this because this is going to result in an article tomorrow on Fight Saga and also its individual segment based on this show. Do you think at age 39, Gennady Golovkin is still a tougher outing for Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds than the unproven and seemingly green Caleb Plant?
Yes.
Can you explain why, sir?
He hasn't been in Golovkin. He hasn't been in a tough fight since Derevyanchenko. What's that been, a year and a half?
Yep.
Okay, his body's rested, Joe. Okay, so and he still got the skill. He still got the intelligence, the experience. Okay, and the toughness to deal with a guy like Canelo. Okay, he'd be a lot more competitive than Caleb Plant. He's proven himself, Joe. Yeah, he's 39, but he's arrested 39. The last year and a half, his body hasn't went through the meat grinder when he fought Derevyanchenko. Ooh, that was a tough fight. First
That was
time
a
ever
tough
seen
fight.
Golovkin hurt in a fight. Okay,
Yep.
he got hit with that body shot by Derenchenko. But what I was gonna say is, Canelo's in his prime now, boy. He's fighting. He's peaking, baby. All cylinders are running, boy. Ooh, you know what I mean?
Yep. It's good. A tough outing for anyone. So do you think an inactive, because to be honest with you, Coach, I think Canelo is taking on, if this fight happens and is announced this week, I think Canelo is getting Caleb Plant at exactly the most opportune time.
Yep.
He doesn't have that big fight experience yet. He's an athletic specimen. He's truly gifted, but he doesn't have that experience, and he's a little too green for Canelo, and he's a little too inactive for Canelo at this time. Coach Gogue, do you think the inactivity of Golovkin then, do you think it served him well before this fight? So where his body is rested and recovered, and so he gives, you still think he gives possibly Canelo Alvarez one of the toughest fights at 168 pounds?
Oh, Joe, look at the other two fights he had with
brutal.
Yeah. You know, there's always somebody out there that's going to give you a tough fight, all right? And Golovkin, Golovkin is Canelo's dance partner to always have a good competitive scrap. That's why Canelo, man, after he beat Golovkin, I don't want to fight him again. I proved there was a lot of controversy, Joe. There should have been the third fight, but Canelo didn't want none of that hard. He didn't want none of that hard stuff. Okay.
Yep.
That's why, I can't put him up there with Chavez. He's the greatest. Julio took on the hard stuff. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He took on the and guys in their primes. He beat them all. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I wholeheartedly agree, Coach. And yeah, so if Canelo is like Manny Pacquiao, basically Gennady Golovkin is Canelo's Juan Manuel Marquez.
Yeah. There's always somebody out there, Joe.
It doesn't matter where they are in their respective careers. It's always going to be a difficult outing. That guy just has your number, and vice versa. I love it. Honestly, I don't care if it's been years removed from their second fight. I want to see it again. In fact, I hope we get to see it on 9/11 this year.
Joe.
Mexican Independence.
Yep. Look, Joe. It's not like Gennady is shot like a 26-year-old Wilfredo Benitez.
No.
His skill, Father Time has caught up to him. He's starting to slip, but he'll give Canelo a hell of a fight. And I heard that they offered him a fight. He said, "No problem, we'll take it." Okay.
Yep.
You haven't
He's
heard
already
back from
agreed.
Canelo yet.
From what I've been told, he is Plan B, not Bivol, not Beterbiev. It's Gennady Golovkin is Plan B for Canelo Alvarez if they can't make the Caleb Plant fight. So this is we want to thank Mr. Joe Strummer for joining us. He says Canelo is the cash cow. He calls the shots. So
yes, he does.
Right on the money, Joe. And so I think it's laughable that Al Heyman is trying to dictate the terms with Canelo Alvarez, saying, well, if you want Caleb Plant, this last piece of the 168-pound puzzle, well, you're going to have to come and fight on PBC Fox. I just laugh, Coach.
Canelo was like, who the fuck are you, man? I'm the biggest draw in boxing right now. I'm the hottest fighter in boxing right now. I call the shots. So
Peter agrees with you, Coach. He says Canelo may win all the cash, but not the respect of all the Mexican boxing fans. Well said, my friend. Yeah. And we want to thank also Chicano Prophet for joining us. He says, I agree. As long as Triple G has the grit to go for broke, if he can't take the heat anymore, different story. Yeah. Tell you what, either way, it's another great fight. Thank you for joining us, Chicano Prophet. And Antonio joins us. He comments, says, if I were Caleb Plant, I would be pissed at Bob Heyman with the Freudian slip. There you go, Antonio. Yeah, we know Bob, you meant Al, brother.
Al Heyman. Al Heyman, yeah.
That was a Freudian slip by him. Okay, final thing, and we have to let Coach go. He's had a long week. and
A
we're already
long
an hour and
fucking
15
week.
minutes. That's why
On a
he's
long
laying in his
fucking
bed
week.
there, because we want him to be as comfortable as possible, because he's doing us a favor by doing this show. We learn so much from you, Coach Gogue, every week. Thank you for your time. Final comments. Ray, thank you for joining us, sir. He says, Coach, is De La Hoya trolling with his comeback in September?
Oh, God. Old shot over the hill fighter. Man, I said this. Look, man, if you guys haven't heard me talk about these old shot over the hill fighters trying to relive their dreams from the past. Look, you only got one chance to do this shit, and that's when you're in your prime, and that's when you're young. When you get older, this sport is not for old men. It's for young kids with a lot of testosterone, not older shot fighters past their prime. Come on, man. Who the fuck is he fooling, man? You know what I mean?
Sorry,
I mean,
Oscar.
I like Oscar.
I do like Oscar too. I think he gets
man, I known
too much
Oscar.
criticism. Yeah.
I known Oscar, I don't know, probably 91, 92 when he was in the amateurs. First time I seen Oscar fight was in like 88 when he was in the Junior Olympics. But I've known him since 91, 92 when he was number one in the USA. So I seen him grow through the ranks. I seen him in his prime. I seen him when he was a young kid. It was a hell of a fight. It's a Hall of Famer. But come on, at 40, what is he, 48, 49 now? Jesus, man. It's a fucking grandfather.
Look, if he thinks he's going to be the next Cinderella man, James J. Braddock, I'm sorry, but Braddock wasn't 49 when he actually fought Joe Louis. I'm sorry. And when he beat Max Baer, he wasn't 49 years old, guys.
Yeah, but anyway, Joe. Yeah, I mean, Joe, when you're older, let me tell you from experience, when you get older, those punches hurt, man. Oh. They hurt real bad. All right, your body hurts.
Brother.
After those hard training sessions, Joe, it takes longer to recover, man. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, Coach, we're looking at you we can see it on you, Coach, just working the mitts.
Oh,
that's not you can
feel. Hey, man, Joe,
talk about it, Coach. Talk about it, how it feels working the mitts at your age.
Fuck, I don't like working that shit no more. My body's shot, man. I feel like a shot coach. A coach that's shot. My body's sore. You know, after I work the pads with the guys, I only do it like 2, max 3 days a week if I do that. And I only do it for certain guys, okay? There's a reason I work pads, Joe. Number one is help them to teach them the proper mechanics on how to throw the punches correctly, okay? Balance. It starts with balance. The delivery of the punch, rotating the shoulders, shifting the weight and all that bullshit. Compact, short punches and all that crap. Okay. Teaching them how to throw the punches correctly. Number 2, teaching them different combinations that they're going to use in a fight that we plan on using in a fight. Okay. All right. Other stuff. You're teaching them how to work. I like working the pads on teaching them the inside game. Okay. Mm-hmm. The fundamentals of the inside game, how to fight in the pocket. Okay. When you're in a live fight or when you're getting ready to spar, teaching them the fundamentals, the body punches to throw, the proper stance, the defense and all that shit. Okay. The short compact combinations, the different combinations to throw. I like to teach them the different combinations from range and distance. I put them in scenarios, Joe, on what they're going to do in a fight. The rhythm they're going to fight in, the combinations they're going to fight in, the jab, setting up everything with the jab, knowing when to throw the jab, using feints. Okay. I like to use feints for my fighters when I'm working the pads. Okay. I tell them to feint, then throw combinations. Okay. That's what you want to do. Okay. When you're sparring. So if you're doing a sparring, you're going to do it in the fight. Everything I do on the pads is geared for sparring, Joe. Okay? Yep. Because if they don't do it in the sparring, they're sure the fuck ain't going to do it in the fight. So everything I do, I try to be practical as possible. Not none of that pop, all that bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all shit. It does nothing. I use the pads also, Joe, to develop a fighter's IQ, how to think, how to think using that jab, how to feint, how to throw different combinations out of the jab from range and distance. Okay, how to change the variation of your jab. hard jabs, touch jabs, how to
Yep.
jab at different targets. Your head, your body. These are realistic scenarios I use on how to work the hand. That's what I do, Joe. I put them in, everything I told you, from the fundamentals to putting them in live scenarios on how to work, and put them in live scenarios. What's going to happen in a fight? Okay,
That's
what's
right.
going to happen in sparring?
That's the same thing. That's the same thing Emmanuel Stewart told me, Coach.
One thing I also do, Joe.
Yes, sir.
I teach them how to fight off the ropes using the pads. I get them on the ropes, okay, where their backs against the ropes, and I teach them the fundamentals. Not staying high and squared up on the rope with your head high like Charlo or Jaime Munguia. Staying low, okay, pointing that left shoulder. Hands up tight, elbows tucked in, and your hands protecting your face real tight with the gloves open, okay? Okay, because you're on the ropes. That's a danger zone, so you got to know how to defend yourself. Then I teach them the combinations, how to throw, when you're on the ropes, how to counter off the ropes, the combinations, what to throw when you're on the ropes and everything. And, stuff like that, Joe. I put them in live scenarios, how to find escape routes. But God,
you know what?
Damn, man, that shit is next day, man, my body is sore. So, Joe, what'd you say about Emmanuel Stewart?
That's exactly what Emmanuel Stewart told me. And you know what? And luckily, when I got to spend time with Emmanuel, and he couldn't stand the Mayweather patty cake style of working mitts, he saw no need for it, and he couldn't figure out what the point was. He said, look, the way I use mitts with my fighters, I work on combinations and scenarios that they're going to experience in the ring. Otherwise, what's the point? That's what he told me, basically the same thing you were saying. So, Coach Gogue, can you figure out why Mayweather does the mitts that way?
I know.
What's the point?
I know, because he has brittle hands. He can't hit the mitts hard, okay, Joe, because of his brittle hands. So he's got to do like a lot of timing and rhythm, and when Roger used to throw, punches back at him, how he slip or weave under those punches. A lot of it for timing and rhythm and to keep his reflexes sharp, okay?
Speed, gotcha.
Yeah, speed, reflexes, timing and rhythm, okay? That's the reason why it's because of his brittle hands, excuse me, yeah.
So why do so many regional and local coaches actually practice that same mitt work? Why do they do that?
Why? Oh, they think, oh my God, it looks great. They think that's the key to Mayweather's success. It all started on 24/7, Joe.
When Mayweather 24/7, yeah.
When Mayweather fought De La Hoya, they started doing all that shit. Next thing you know, man, everybody started doing that shit. What is it? What copycats they call them? Yeah, they started copying that shit.
They started using the Mayweather cookie cutter.
And guess what, Joe? From there, they started making just more ridiculous routines from that Mayweather shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in a fight. It doesn't teach you fundamentals. It doesn't teach your fighter how to think. It doesn't teach your fighter how to work out the jab. Okay.
That's right. But I will say this: since it's been half a decade since Mayweather officially retired, I have noticed that we've been seeing it less and less the further we distance ourselves from Mayweather's tenure in the sport.
I still see the same.
You still see that garbage? Oh, jeez.
Go to Instagram. You'll see a million trainers trying to be Instagram stars. Like the fucking Instagram models that that want to get all those likes. You'll see the same shit from the trainers. And not only that, Joe, there's a lot of female trainers that are popping up in boxing, and they're start doing that shit.
Oh boy.
Nothing against them. God bless them, and
God bless them.
Against. But I learned from the old school trainers the fundamentals, which starts with footwork, the proper stance, working off your jab, using your feints, being intelligent in the ring. I learned from old school trainers, man, and I've been around some good ones. Like I said, in my lifetime, where I learned a lot. Guys like Manuel, Eddie Futch, good George Benton, Jesse Reed, Joe Goose,
legends.
I've been in. I met so many great trainers in my lifetime, Joe. I met so many old school trainers. I mean, everybody I talked about and some. And I learned a lot over the years. But me, Joe, I'm a student of the game. I learn. I watch a lot of fights and I pick up shit and and I learned the old school way, and old school way is the correct way. Like I said, you'll see a lot of fancy mitt work nowadays with all these coaches, but none of the fighters can fight.
And there you have it, guys. That's Coach Gogue, 5-decade fight trainer. Coach, do you have any parting shots for our listening audience this evening?
No, like I said, man, 9 o'clock. We've got to be consistent every week and build our audience. And thank you for everybody that, tuned in. It's going to pick up, man. Antonio was there, Peter, Corey Bradshaw, and a couple others, it's going to pick up. And, because when you got, hey, Joe, when you got good content, people are going to find out about you and tune the fuck in. But you got to be consistent. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right. Well, Coach, every time we have you on the air, it's golden content. So thank you, sir. Okay, very, very quickly, we're going to slip one in just for our brother, Joe Strummer. He says this, Coach, is Ryan Garcia the real deal? Last question of the night.
Mr. Instagram star? The guy with the mental problems?
Oh, boy. Are you going to plead the fifth, Coach?
Me, until he beats somebody, he ain't done shit. All right? He beat Luke Campbell, but goddamn, Luke Campbell is what you call a bridesmaid. Every time he steps up to the plate, he loses. All right?
He had a good competition, fight.
He had a great fight, an opportunity to fight Fortuna, and he pulls out of the fight, because of, personal problems. And he talks a lot of shit, but he don't. He talks, but he doesn't. He talks the talk, but doesn't walk the walk. Okay.
Indeed. So I tell you what, we've got 2 additional answers from some of our brothers. Brother Antonio says no. Brother Ray says he has the potential, but Gogue, in your mind,
can I say something to him?
Go ahead, sir.
This kid's got exceptional talent, physical talent. Ryan Garcia, quick feet, quick hands. And he's got pop. He's got pop in both hands. He's got power. Okay? He's got the talent and abilities there. But come on, man. I'm the kind of guy, that don't mean shit. I'm the kind of guy, who have you fought and who have you beaten?
Indeed. Will he ever realize and reach his full potential in the sport without the process, without respecting the process? And going through that process and fighting the different levels, staying active, staying in the gym, staying away from that drama, creating that drama for yourself. Too many fighters in America, Coach, fall prey to that. And once again, Coach Gogue is absolutely right. Talent alone isn't enough to be great in this sport.
Fuck talent. All right. I used to be caught up on all that shit talent, and when I learned fuck talent. I look at a fighter's mental toughness, his mental resiliency, his professionalism, his dedication, his focus, his hunger. That's what I look at now. Fuck talent.
Hey, Coach, you know what?
I've seen a lot of talent. Joe, I've had talented guys, and I've seen a lot of talented guys in my lifetime that never made it, okay? Fuck talent.
There's no substitute for hard work, Coach, and dedication. I tell you what, though, speaking of which, we forgot to talk about the preliminary bouts. Well, maybe we can do another show sometime this week if your schedule permits. Very quickly, though, Brother Antonio says Rollie Romero threw down the gauntlet on Devin Haney. In my opinion, Coach, Rollie Romero, he can't fight, brother.
He's strong and he can punch, but his skills. Yeah, his skills, and he says he wants to move up to 140. So, good luck to him.
We'll leave it at that, guys. That's going to just about do it. We want to thank Coach Gogue visiting with us for an hour and a half out of his very busy schedule. We'll try to schedule a show sometime this week or later on in the week. We're going to feature James Gogue hopefully once again. But guys, on this Sunday evening, that's going to just about do it. On behalf of the esteemed 5-decade fight trainer, James Gogue, I'm Joseph Herron. You've been listening to War Week Radio Network. Thanks for joining us and have a wonderful evening, everybody.